Okay.
Yeah, so hey everyone, happy Friday. We're going to do the official intro in just a couple minutes, let some extra people join in. But yeah, I'm definitely excited for this show. Definitely love that In Crypto We Trust shirt behind you. Yeah, it's kind of that I think that a lot of us really seized on that opportunity of this is something that crypto as a whole is something that can really change the world for a meaningful way. And a lot of the best inventions in the world have done that, but I don't know if there was like internet maximalists the same way, like is hugely important as the internet is to human flourishing. Crypto has this extra little layer of like, this is something unique. This is something cool.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us are in it for the cause, right? For the idea laid out originally in 2009 that we could have peer-to-peer electronic cash without intermediaries, right? The whole idea started there.
Yeah.
And I still think it's a great idea. I mean, a lot of different cryptocurrencies like have taken that idea and then run with it their own way, and I think that that's pretty cool.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, everyone who is here because they see the post on Twitter, on my Twitter. I mean, I'm Kallisti.cash, so obviously
Hmm.
I'm not a Bitcoin Cash guy, but um, there's a lot of merit to what a lot of other cryptos are doing too. So it's like um, mainly when I go out into the real world and I talk about why is this the only thing that I talk about on my Twitter? Because like actually
Hmm.
I just started a new job, so like we're connecting with employees, talk about what do we do outside of work and whatnot. Well, I literally, um, I guess I shill BCH full time
Yeah.
outside of work because I mean, it's like what I do. I'm on my computer. If I'm not at work, I'm on my computer, right? I'm like doing something online, so that includes Twitter, right? And so whenever I have a thought, and it includes Telegram, hanging out with all the homies on Telegram. Um, oh, we're talking about stuff, an idea pops up. Well, I'm just gonna tweet that. It's
Hmm.
cool, whatever, just like random thoughts. And I mean, the whole reason I even made a Twitter is because I found myself talking to myself in some of the public channels like a lot. And it's just like rambling. I'm like, okay, actually, I'm just gonna go throw this into the void where I'm not like derailing conversations.
Yeah. I mean, that's the ultimate kind of thing. I think it's very interesting how there's a lot of people in this space who didn't really care about money before. They were just like, well, it's a tool for whatever. I don't really think about money. Yet, like I'm definitely one of those people who just like, as long as I had enough to like live off of comfortably, I just didn't pay any extra attention to money or finance or anything like that. And this whole decentralized version of that has kind of not only given me a crash course in how the old system worked, but also like it kind of is something to get excited about. And like not a lot of people are like, I mean, you never really run into PayPal shills out there, like, oh, dude, I'm like a PayPal nation. And like, no one cares. Just no one cares. But with this is something special. I think people see that it's not just people are able to, I guess, get behind an idea as something more. It's not just like a payments mean. Although, without that basic function, it doesn't really work very well.
Yeah. So I mean, what kind of possibilities do you see beyond just like just the peer-to-peer electronic transfer, right? I mean, I guess that's something both of us have been talking to like nano people a lot. They're really adamant about that. Like we only
Hmm.
want peer-to-peer value transfer, like on layer one. Like, what's your take on
Hmm.
that?
Okay, well, I'm gonna get them all mad by saying that, but well, first off, I think that that's the thing. The reason why we get excited about crypto in general is because money is a language for communicating value, and it helps us maximize value by being able to efficiently store and communicate that value, and really helps us do a whole lot of things. It's like one of the many human languages is money. And first off, I'm into getting that language as advanced as possible. But then there's also like other pieces of language. If it's just like an alphabet, that's just it. But then you got to get into more things. You got to get into poetry. You got to get into more things. And so, like, I don't understand seeing how, like, getting that crypto is awesome. It could change the world. And then just being like, yeah, but that's it. Just for payments. Like, let's not do anything else awesome. Let's not, you know, let's not make anything else just a completely decentralized, freedom enabling, anyone can participate kind of a thing. It's just like the internet is just for blogs and that's it. It's like, why not everything? Like, and I get that people have like, I'm like a lot of that the DeFi stuff. It took me a while to get DeFi because I didn't get the degen stuff. I'm just not into that. Like hyper trader, this and that. Like all I want to do is if I have a token and I have a different one I want to be able to swap it. Beyond that, I want to kind of be able to earn interest off of those things. But other than that, like, you know, all like the, you know, hedging and loans and all this other stuff all over the place. You know, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's awesome. I don't personally care as much about it. The problem is like the whole, well, if I don't care about it, no one should care about it kind of thing is a little bizarre. And I could talk about a little bit more into the nano stuff some other time if it'll get more of the shills to come share this podcast, share the podcast. But, I've already done a little bit too much of that. All right, so we're 10 minutes in. Let's run the official intro and then get going on this. So, hey everyone, happy Friday. Thanks for watching. I'm joined by the one and only Kallisti. I'm sure there's no one else with that name. Is that true?
No, there's like 100 different Kallistis.
Well, you're the only one that matters because you're the one on the show right now. Before we get into too many things, obviously like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Don't forget to do that. If you have one of my NFTs and you're in my Discord, you can get into the NFT only super chat and leave a comment and, you know, a question or whatever. And in fact, before we get started on like the news stuff, we did actually get one from Onetime says cryptocurrency is one of the few things in the world that we actually know we can trust. Yeah. And it's funny how a lot of people who are, you know, are outside of the crypto space find it very hard to trust. And I think that what they don't trust is how little they need to trust it. Maybe that's a little 4D chess or whatever on that, but yeah, good stuff. Anyway, also, usually I just do the super chats and stuff, but because we have your fun little Telegram group, feel free to throw in questions there too. Even though I can't put them up on the screen, I will still address them. Let me just make sure everything's good to go. Yeah, there we go. All right, so the first story that I was going to touch on was the Ripple survey one, right? So Ripple survey, 97% of payments firms believe in the power of crypto. The lack of regulatory clarity is the biggest hurdle to the adoption of crypto-enabled payments, according to a new survey co-hosted by Ripple. Of course, you know, Ripple would, you know, be involved in kind of doing that stuff. But real quick, hot take on that result of the survey.
So I mean, it's Ripple though, and I mean,
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
so first off, I've really ever paid any attention to Ripple. I actually heard about it around the same time that I first heard about Bitcoin, which is in around 2011, and I didn't really understand it back then. It was like, oh, it was something about foreign exchange, like currency exchange, and again, I was like 19 back then. I didn't understand any of that stuff. I tried to, but so I mean, we're looking at this now. 97% of payment firms believe in the power of crypto.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Everybody sees the potential, but without I was just kind of talking about this with some of the BTCers in my local community earlier today, actually, like the lack of regulatory clarity. There was a bill, I think, being proposed in South Dakota where they're trying to pretty much completely outlaw all cryptocurrency. Like they're going to just say it's not money unless the government recognizes it, and it's not something that was established before this law, like electronic means. Like the exact wording was very specific to completely discredit like all cryptocurrency. And so it's like, I don't see that as being a good move for, I guess, like
Anyone.
the US. Well, I mean, yeah, for anyone, but like the US, because yeah, I mean, people are just going to move overseas to crypto friendly jurisdictions. I don't know, like we need that clarity.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, this metric, 97%, yeah, people clearly see the power and the potential. I think we saw the power and potential back in 2015 through 17, where you could buy games on Steam, you could buy computers from Dell. What happened to all that, right? So we need this. I think exactly. You don't see PayPal maxis because PayPal is a payment service that's skimming off the top and locks people out of their money, and it sucks. So especially
Yeah.
when we have these awesome cryptocurrencies that are way better in comparison.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. And, you know, ignoring for a second the Ripple side of things, it's it's kind of we're at this weird spot where I think the whole world, to a certain extent, is sold that crypto is the future, whether or not they know what that means. They know it's the future, and they know they need to get in on it, but they're really confused and uncertain. It's just like peaking of uncertainty and interest at the same time. And so, like, obviously, any company can see that, like, oh, the internet is huge. If you're not on the internet in some way, shape, or form today, like, you're literally a taco stand down an alley somewhere. And that's like, other than that, like, you need to be there. And they're starting to see that crypto is the same, but they just don't know how to approach it. And part of the reason they don't know how to approach it is because the regulations are so, like, unclear. And I think that the secret, though, is, like, they're waiting for, like, the adults in the room, which by that I think they think the government, which, is kind of the opposite of what I think, but they think that they're waiting for them to give clarity. The problem is the regulators are just as confused on how to handle this.
Hmm.
They have no idea how to handle it because they would like to just tell it to go away, just say you can't do any of it. But I think they're also seeing, well, if we say no, then a different U.S. state, for example, will become a crypto haven, or a different South American country or island nation or whatever will become, and all the money is going to go there, and our constituents will be mad and they'll yell at us and we'll lose our jobs. And so they're like, well, we have to handle it. We have to let it in, but we got to, like, manage it. And we don't know how it works, really. We don't know what we can get away with, what we can't. And so they're just like, it's one of those telling things with the SEC that keeps on, like, trying to sue projects, do things like that, but they won't tell anyone how to be a compliant, how to not be an illegal security. And and I've heard several judges, including court hearings I've been to myself, say that, criticize them. They're like, well, if this is not the way to do it, what is the way to doing it? Can you provide any clarity here? And they just won't. So we're in this very weird little situation there. I think that I do think that as far as from the business end, the payment processor type side, I think it's going to be practically like a switch where they all start taking crypto as soon as someone figures it out, someone makes it work, and then there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of seems like the SEC strategy is like, well, let's just sue everybody and then let court precedent kind of define what this stuff is, because like you said, the legislature is just as confused. We can't really rely on Congress to, like, have a unified view on this either. I think there are some people who like in Congress who understand. I think senator in Arizona, and of course, like, there's the whole scene in New Hampshire. I think the people in New Hampshire really get it. Texas as well. So, I don't think all hope is lost, really, but I think with the latest news about the SEC declaring pretty much everything except for Bitcoin a security, I mean, I do see a lot of parallels there. I'm not exactly sure how to think about Ethereum itself. Like, I think I would go kind of in the weeds there, but I mean, as far as all of the other cryptos on the market, I think most of them would definitely fall under. I mean, it's like you have, like, a central organization issues these tokens. You expect those tokens to go up based on the effort that this organization puts in. I mean, that's pretty much what a security is, right? I mean, it's no issue than me being a company issuing stock. You buy that stock.
Yeah, that's where the securities laws need some sort of an overhaul, because in the crypto world, you have decentralized organizations or decentralized networks, and a lot of times when you're an actual securities like issuer, if you do an actual securities offering, you do have some control over the outcome. Whereas when you start a crypto project and then there's tokens out in the wild, anyone can use them. You can't take them back. You can't do any of that stuff. And then you definitely have people kind of coming out there, and they can run nodes, they can do whatever else they want to do, et cetera, et cetera. And you can't really control that. And so trying to kind of hold one actor responsible for all that kind of stuff, it's not going to work long term. It's just not. But they're not wanting to figure, they don't know exactly how else to do it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, which kind of reminds me of, which is this next thing here about the CBDCs. So Australia's central bank to launch live pilot of CBDC in coming months. The use case for CBDC ranging from offline payments to trusted Web3 commerce, in quotations, thankfully. And financial industry participants were invited to undertake a live pilot. Now, this is, there's CBDCs are getting super close, but I still feel like they're super far. Like, I still feel like they haven't figured out what to do. Have you been following the CBDC space, as it were?
Kind of by proxy. I mean, it's more like I have an awareness that they're coming, and they're probably coming sooner than I'd like. I mean, my general thought is, probably by 2025. And I try to warn people about this, and I think it's going to blindside a lot of people. And then when it does, kind of most of those people aren't going to care until it starts becoming like maybe draconian, where people say you can only spend your money on certain things or at certain times or at certain places, or like certain amounts. I don't know. I'm just really nervous about how that can go. But then, there's the flip side. We were talking to Callan Kulianu, Bitcoin Cash developer, on the Bitcoin Cash podcast, and he had an opinion where it's like, well, the government is historically really bad at rolling out these kind of mass scale projects.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's kind of like you said, it's close, but it does still kind of seem far at the same time. It's shaky. I don't know. I'm nervous about it, and I would really just rather everybody starts using like Bitcoin Cash or Monero or something like en masse, like before that happens, so we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, of course. That's the thing that I've noticed is, and I give the example of like when someone has like a work project or homework or whatever, that you got a deadline, and then what you're promising to deliver by that deadline goes down the closer to the deadline you get. I kind of feel like the CBDCs are sort of scrambling to get something out there, because crypto as a whole has been out here for almost 15 years. And still, it's ignoring diehards like us, it's kind of clunky for regular people. Mm-hmm. And this is the purest, freest market in the world, with stupid amounts of capital that got just thrown in willy-nilly. If this is the best we can do so far, do we really think the government's somehow going to do an equal or better job in like a short period of time? Like, I don't think that they're going to be able to compete in that way. What I do think they're going to do is try to find other ways of getting the same results that they want, which is to be like on top of the payments and money systems of whatever people are using. I think they'll find easier ways to do that. And so usually just like probably the next step after, well, let's launch our own chain. The first thing was like, well, let's like not like crypto's whatever, but it's coming. So let's make our own digital dollar or whatever it is, and then just ban crypto. So you got to use this one. Well, I think they missed the boat on that one hard. I think that they no longer have the option, the realistic option, I should say, of trying to ban non-government cryptos. And then it's like, okay, well then now we'll just launch our own CBDC next to this stuff, and we'll just try to make people pay taxes in it or whatever. And so it gets used. I think they're kind of not succeeding on that either. I think the next rung is going to be they're going to issue it as a regulated stable coin on current networks such as Ethereum, Polygon, Bitcoin Cash, maybe, I don't know, wherever else. And I'm still 50-50 on if it's going to be that or if it's going to be the final rung down where they just pass some law making all stablecoin regulators have to register with like the Federal Reserve or something, and then that's just how they do it. Like, so then if you use USDC or Tether or whatever, that'll just be the CBDC. It kind of already is in a certain way.
Right. I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Like, well, what's the difference between like Circle CBDC and like an actual CBDC? Because,
Yeah.
or I'm sorry, I meant to say USDC.
Yeah. And that's probably the way it's going to go. I like to, there have been some CBDC pilots out there, but as far as I've been able to tell, they haven't really done super well. Like, Nigeria did one, and like basically no one used it, so they kind of scrapped it. So I don't really know, I don't really know how that's going to end up turning out.
Oh, okay. So like in Nigeria, I actually like saw a huge thread about this recently. I actually like reposted it on my Facebook. Like that's how important I thought it was. So I
Hmm.
saw in Nigeria right now, like they actually are just doubling down on the e-naira. And
Hmm.
basically they have like a cash redemption program, and there's just like actually not enough cash to go around. And so like people are actually like starving because of it.
Wow.
And that's like pretty screwed up. And I'm like, if that's an experiment, right? Like that's a canary, because
Hmm.
if the Nigerian government is willing to do that and just like let people die. This thread also wanted to say India is doing something like this, but I haven't looked into that one as much. Um,
Yeah, because India
and
did do the what are the redenomination or whatever, where they phased out a whole bunch of cash bills that a lot of people were just kind of stuck not being able to redeem them. So yeah, I mean that's the thing is you don't these kinds of big actions. I think that when you have entrenched countries like Western European ones, for example, or the U.S., I think that that becomes a lot less feasible. Not because necessarily the populace itself is just so grumpy about it, but also like all the banks, all the corporations that have financial interests in the banking system and all these other things. All those people, if you just turn the table over and upset them, then all of a sudden, you get, you lose your elections, right? So
yeah,
they got to figure out a way to do it that upsets the fewest amount of people.
yeah, it's like I guess the concept of free market economics applies to politics in a way too.
Yeah, which a lot of people don't like to see that politics that there's a free market element in the very coercive kind of nature of politics, but it is true. But on the government using current infrastructure kind of subject, let's hit on this Polygon one, right? So Polygon launches decentralized ID project powered by zero knowledge proofs. The public launch of Polygon ID comes 12 months after its first launch as a closed environment to a select group of builders. So this is interesting in that basically I there's another like hot button type issue for like freedom advocates who always see, you know, like digital ID, it's like mark of the beast, all this kind of stuff. It's terrible. Can't really argue too much on that side to a certain extent. But also, people already use some manner of identification, and they always will. And it's just like I I don't object in principle to people having identity tokens or some sort of a access token in their decentralized digital wallet that then they use to get access to various things. The problem though is of course when they just try to say like, no, look, you got your whole KYC stuff right on chain. I don't like introducing old school KYC to,
Hmm.
new school crypto to where now it's just like, well, in order to withdraw from Coinbase, you need to have you need to sign with a wallet that has your ID in it, and then in order to get it out, and now you have your on chain crypto, your self custodial crypto is now KYC'd, and I like that kind of stuff. That's kind of where I think that you can see rather than straight up CBDC, the government rolling out its own fresh infra for all this stuff. I could see them sort of like mandating stuff like that. Like you can use crypto, whatever. It's just a crime to not do it without your identity token in your wallet. You can't transact without that. Like that kind of stuff is where I think it could go and where it could get pretty sketchy.
I mean, I think ultimately we're going to have things like digital ID, and right, and it's all about the implementation, because we could still have a more or less anonymous form of digital ID on an actually decentralized blockchain such as Bitcoin Cash. we could actually implement something like this. You could still have like, say like a tokenized version of your state ID or something like that, right? Like that's going
Mm-hmm.
to exist, right? So like, and I'm actually for that. I'd honestly rather have like my proof of insurance and my car registration and my license. Like if I got pulled over, like we're not gonna like dismantle the government. Like it's just not
Mm-hmm.
gonna happen. There's always going to be some form of governance, even in the most anarchist society, because you have an implicit social contract between two people that you're not just going to randomly punch each other in the face.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't know. With that, it's like, sure, we're gonna have digital ID. It's going to be like you can track everything. We're gonna have like the data problem that we have on the internet already. But can we make it manageable? That's, I think, really the key. And the answer is yes, we can, because you can have multiple wallets, you can have multiple addresses. You don't necessarily have to link uh, my state ID to like my main spending wallet or my cold storage vault or anything like that. You have the ability to. I mean, this is, I guess, like a key difference too between a chain like Polygon and UTXO chains like Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
because with EVM chains like account chains, it's just one account has all of your tokens, all of your Ethereum or all of your Polygon, whatever. With a UTXO chain like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, it's more like paper bills in your physical wallet that you can split apart and merge together at will, and nobody can really truly track those paper bills, right? Like, if I give you $1 in cash, it's just like any other random dollar in cash. Sure, it's got a serial number on it, but that doesn't. That's you're only going to get minimal tracking ability out of that. So yeah, there's chain analysis, but there's also ways to break chain analysis. And as long as you don't actually commingle the identity token with your cold storage vault, like you're fine. I don't really see the issue. So yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
digital ID is ultimately a good thing, because that's going to enable like single sign-on without passwords, like a fingerprint authentication. Like just scan your wallet here and you're logged in. Like I want that ever. I don't want to ever have to type in a password ever again. Like
Yeah,
for the most part, like,
absolutely.
whenever I create an account, like create an account on like every 1,000 websites that I use like on a yearly basis or whatever. Like I just, like, a password manager is great, but like not even everyone's using a password manager by now. Wouldn't it just be so much easier if I could just use a crypto wallet for everything?
Yeah, and things are getting to that with like, there's already sign in with ETH, sign in with Polygon, and places like that. What I guess what I would like to see is, instead of, and this is like the beginning of a 5 hour conversation, so I won't dwell on it too long, but like, what I like to see, instead of unified IDs, like, your whole like full KYC kind of stuff, it'd be good to have like specific NFTs as like identity tokens for certain things. Sort of
Hmm.
like your gym membership goes in there, and then your credentials to get into your work, whatever, and you just collect all these tokens in whatever wallet, and you just sign, and it says, it checks if you have those, and then there you go. So it
Yep.
acts like a whole ID thing, but it's not. Well, like your meat space person, like, it's like, well, no, if you show up to to like your gym and actually pay in person, you get that little token, and then there you go. As long as you have it, you're in. Or if you go to your job, in person or whatever, and you say, well, I need the access to get in the building, and then you do it, and then like if you lose your wallet, you call them like, hey, can I come in again and like remint this token, burn that other one, mint this, and just have like an NFT based kind of ID key ring. And I'm sure some people would want to just have like a one super NFT, which is just their whole identity, their whole KYC. But like privacy conscious people could have the same authentication kind of abilities without kind of storing that one, like, basically virtual birth certificate or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, and this is possible too with like the technology we have now, like HD wallets. It's basically like a
Mm-hmm.
hierarchy. I mean, that's what the H in HD, hierarchical deterministic wallets. And so when you have a derivation path, I mean, not to get like too super in the weeds technically, but like it's basically
Mm-hmm.
just you have like the root, and that could be your super token, right? The root of your HD wallet. If you really, really wanted to, if you really wanted to be like, I would. I'm trying to like not use mean words, right? But I personally think that would be stupid.
Yeah.
But then that private key that has everything, you can still separate that down in the hierarchy, and so you can still have the key to just one subset of things. Like this is just my wallet that deals with work things, just my wallet that deals with
Mm-hmm.
everything spending. like just my wallet that deals with my online identity. And so you could have it that way, and you could have like your master root seed phrase, like you can make that a super secure like 24 word seed phrase with a passphrase on top of it, and like make sure you put that in like a fireproof safe somewhere. It's not going to get destroyed or stolen, whatever. That can be like equivalent to your whole identity paperwork, your birth certificate and your social security or whatever. I'm in the US, so that, because that could lead to identity theft, right? That is a
Of
real risk
course.
today. You could be defrauded out of your identity paperwork.
Yeah, and
So
then it's in that case, it's not because identity theft, the way you call it today, is kind of like identity unauthorized usage. This would be literal identity theft. Like they literally take your whole identity. Now you don't exist. Kind of it could be messed up. But yeah, I think that kind of stuff is really interesting. I do know a few different projects are working on that, on something similar to where you can have like a base, like a master wallet, and then sub wallets and sub identities and stuff. But I really think backup options need to be figured out, like recovery options need to
Mhm.
be really ironed out, because otherwise the whole like crypto the way it is today, where it's like you lose your private keys, everyone just goes like that. Like, sorry, it's like that's not gonna fly if it's your life. If it's just money, even if it's a lot of money, people have like trace it to an exchange or whatever, and the cops help you get it back maybe. But like, man, that could be really problematic that way.
Well, I think people got to realize too, you're not necessarily going to have 100% of your money backed up by just 12 words, right? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I personally have like three different wallets that are in my main use, right? I have my wallet that I keep on like my PC and my laptop. I use the same key on both because that's what I use for like my chain tips and my, like if I go on
Mm-hmm.
IO, that's what I'm using to spend with. Then I have my mobile phone wallet, which I'm not going to put any more BCH in that wallet than I would physical cash in my MeatSpace wallet, because like if I get mugged on the street, if I get $5 wrenched, oh, I'm only going to lose like maybe I'm balling one day and I went out to for some drinks with some friends and I've got like $250 in my wallet. Compared to like my net worth in my cold storage wallet, that's whatever, cool. At least I got away with my life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, that's exactly, kind of stuff I do. I guess is have a million different wallets, which can be a pain. Let me see. So, our good old friend, going back to the super chat here, the Bitcoin Cash podcast says, with increasing fracturing in BTC, will we see a first major public defector from BTC to BCH before the end of 2023? And who would it be? A lot of people are starting to call out the Lightning Network, El Salvador, etc., for their problems, and obviously the ordinals enjoyers, or as I should say, enjoyers, are kind of taking things in a new direction and are less wedded to the toxic maximalism. Yeah, I have some interesting thoughts on this. But Kallisti, do you want to give your hot take real quick?
I don't think I could call who would be first. That's a really tough question, but I do think we'll start seeing some more major defections soon. I mean, just from our perspective, like in over here in BCH world, we're always like watching, right? Because we want to know where we stand compared to everybody else. And I do have to say, late 2022, especially going into 2023, has been increasingly favorable for us over
Mm-hmm.
time. Like the narratives have been very visibly shifting, and not just for BCH, but for pretty much every crypto, really. I think maybe like Monero and Litecoin are the only like actual rocks that haven't budged like this whole time, right? Like they've been very focused. They haven't had any major drama, right? Um, so with that, I mean, it's
Yeah.
maybe some major defectors, but a lot more people are starting to call it out. So it's interesting. I mean, even on my own Twitter, I'd say over the past 2 weeks, things have gotten a little more heated. More of the Bitcoin core maximalists are actually starting to be more visibly salty. Um,
As if that was even possible, but somehow it is.
well, no, because let's rewind a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
A year ago, if you mention Bitcoin Cash, it's oh, LOL, Bcash, Roger Ver, price go down, etc. And
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, I'm actually like my page is actually like growing pretty nicely, which like I'm really happy about. But with that, it's just more people are actually coming for me directly instead of just going LOL Bcash. And so it's nice because that means we actually have to visibly debate people. And the whole thing that we're focused on over here in BCH is like, hey, we've been the reasonable camp this whole time. You go back to 2017, the proposal back then to increase the block size was reasonable. You go to 2023 and it's still reasonable, and we're doing even more on top of that now. So I think that one of the things that I've been saying lately is, just, hey, it's time to refresh the due diligence, because yeah, the past couple of years have definitely been not so great. I think I really don't blame anybody who looks at Bitcoin Cash's history and goes, what the heck, that's a mess, I'm not going to touch it. Right. So
Hmm.
I would say 2022 and beyond is the time to start taking that refresher and go, hey, we washed out all of this drama. We got our crap together. We've got cool new upgrades on the way. The community is stronger than ever. We've got more products and product development going on than ever. I know so many of our builders, and all of our
Hmm.
builders are heads down right now working on awesome stuff to bring in later in the year. And I think we're going to be in a really good position in the bull run. So I think we're going to start seeing more salt, and it's just going to keep getting saltier. And as long as Bitcoin Cash people just like stay reasonable and don't like fall for the bait, don't start trolling. I mean, and I'm kind of guilty of this too. Like, I'm a little bit toxic sometimes. I really try not to be, but
Listen,
because like it's
like,
important. It's like, if I'm just like toxic, then nobody's gonna want to listen to me, right? So like, if I want people to take me seriously, I have to take the high road. And I think that
yeah,
that's good for everybody.
yeah, absolutely. That's obviously I try to be the best, nicest uniter person I can. Like my Christmas special, I had Jeremy on from the Bitcoin Cash podcast, but also the guy living all off of Bitcoin and Lightning stuff, and also a Litecoiner, and is try to unite the whole thing. That being said, I do fall short a lot of times, and I can't resist talking smack to people sometimes. But to answer the whole like, who's going to be the next to go? Uh, I kind of have the theory. First off, there's only like 4 full-time Bitcoin Core developers right now, I believe. Like, they're running out of money. They don't know how to do this stuff. And but beyond that, I kind of have a third option, kind of a theory of when people who are very invested in certain ideas and technology, like where they go. And so, for example, Mike Hearn, where the hell did he go? He just took off to do whatever. Like, he's out of crypto, and he didn't be like, oh, there's a Bitcoin Cash, I'm running back. And then pretty much everyone else, like all the maxis, the ex maxis, right? Like
Mhm.
the Udi, whatever, how do you say his last name? The Nick Carters, the all those kinds of people. They sort of seem to not exit to the other side. They don't seem to go toxic Bitcoin maximalism. Let's go to the Bitcoin Cash side. They seem to do because, and I have a theory that almost no one will, just because of the way the human brain is structured, the human ego is structured, to where you could say like, I'm all in this camp, I'm pro this, anti that. It's hard to just flip, to just be like, from the ego perspective, I was wrong in everything. Like, you
Mhm.
can say, well, I was kind of wrong, or things, but you can't do the whole, like, so it's much easier to exit to, for example, Ethereum. Also, it's like, I'll go over here because, it's not exactly the anti the big block Bitcoin. It's something different. And so
Mhm.
even though you can kind of, it's a safer, like, ego exit, I think. And also, it's also safer because Ethereum is arguably the number one crypto today. I mean, in market cap, it's not quite there. But as far as like total fees used by the network and stuff, and where everyone's building stuff, it's definitely the number one, I would say. And so it's easier to be like, well, I'm going to jump ship from like one of the top ones, Bitcoin, right, to another top ones. But it's hard to be like, I'm going to jump all the way down the coin market cap list, like a bunch of places. It's just really hard for people to physically do that. So that's just kind of my prediction. I think that it'll be more like the maxis float off into other directions, and
Like the stick almost.
if there's a big Bitcoin Cash boom, it'll be from fresh faces that weren't haters in the past, for the most part. That's just my prediction. I don't know if you guys think that's true.
Yeah, no, I kind of see it the same way. I mean, like, it's multiple fronts, right? On one hand, convincing the other Bitcoiners, the BTC people, the BSV people, the eCash people, that BCH is actually the way. That's one front, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
even look at this on the exchanges, right? You have the BCH BTC ratio or the BTC anything else ratio that everybody focuses on. Yeah, that's important because if we're talking about replacing fiat, um,
Mm-hmm.
it does make sense to compare against each other and not necessarily against USD or Euro or anything like that. On the other hand, we do also have to get new people into the ecosystem. I mean, where's the capital inflow coming from? We can't just effectively circle jerk each other with the same $1 trillion market cap across all of crypto. Like, for $1 trillion
Yeah.
across however many people are in the crypto space, we're going to run out of money eventually. So we got to get that fresh inflow. We do have to actually get people, even if it's not necessarily them trading their dollars for Bitcoin Cash or anything else, but doing actual peer-to-peer trades. Like one story that I like to fall back on is buying this nice monitor from somebody in the Bitcoin Cash price group. That was awesome. And then we have my local BTC community is really emphasizing this in the state of Michigan. Our meetup scene is awesome, and we're actually doing peer-to-peer trades. We have homesteaders that come in, they trade their goods that, they farmed themselves. It's fresh. You can't get any more Bitcoin than that. So I just really try to steer people in that direction of, hey, you don't necessarily need to look at this as like, I mean, a lot of people do look at it as a stock, but it's not necessarily something you need to put money into. Like, I'm willing to give people my Bitcoin Cash in exchange for something that's valuable to me. So if
Mm-hmm.
there are better ways to earn crypto, I think that's really the missing link for most people. And I guess you have like a
Absolutely.
whole lot of firsthand experience on this because you live on like multiple cryptocurrencies directly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a thing of I kind of view, like we're talking about the circle jerking the same $1 trillion market cap or whatever. Um, I have to say it depends. Like, there's a lot of that. So there's a lot of like money, and not just money, but like people outside of crypto. There's a giant untapped pool, and so whoever can start, you know, digging into that, is going to be a winner. But even within crypto, almost no one uses crypto, and I've come
Hmm.
to like, and a lot of times, you have these like, I guess internal narratives where you say like, oh, everyone's using this one, everyone's using that one. No one's using anything. Like, if you look at, if you look at the like transaction numbers, like, do people actually use, pick just a random coin? Let's just throw out Monero, right? Just throw a curveball. How many, like, it's like 10,000 transactions a day, and they're cheap enough to where I could have 100 or 1,000 of those even on my own, just set them back and forth. I don't really care, right? So there's like 10,000 transactions a day. How many Monero fans are there? I'm sure you see a lot of vocal people. How often do they transact? It's super rare. And like for myself, I don't think I've used crypto explicit. Well, I've only done one crypto transaction today, and that was to create the Odyssey live stream on the library blockchain. That's the only crypto transaction I've done so far today. And I'm Mr. Balls deep in this stuff. Like, I'm way into this. And it just, but we need a lot more people using it. And in the crypto world, there's a lot of untapped potential. And so, for example, if you can find a use case or something awesome, like for example, when I minted NFTs, and my conditions for that were, it has to be something where people can, it has like a Discord bot for easy token gating into my Discord. And so I did on the Wax blockchain, I did it on the Polygon blockchain, because I don't have time for ETH fees right now, right? But so for me, I went to that when I had no interest in either of those two blockchains previous to that, because I wanted to make subscriber NFTs that worked, and I just went. And so now, yeah, I'm a new Polygon user. Hey, yeah, I'm a new Wax user, whatever. And it's the same kind of a thing. Crypto is full of just speculators or even fans. They own some tokens, and then they go to conferences and talk about stuff and hang out on Twitter. It's like, okay, well, but do you use crypto for anything? And a lot of them, The answer is, well, no, but I am definitely open to it. And I would be really excited if someone showed me something cool I could do with a crypto. And I don't really care, even if it's not my favorite one, as much as I'd like it to be my favorite one.
Hmm.
That's kind of the truth there. And so even like maxis, like I've gotten some, not maxis, but I've gotten some like Bitcoin only type people to like start using other coins a little bit. And then they're always trying to bring it back like, oh, this is cool. Hey, I wish I could do this on Lightning or whatever. It's like, okay, I get you're always going to be pushing back towards your favorite stuff, but just as long as you can get out, I think you could recruit a lot of stuff. So actually, the other network I used was Bitcoin Cash for memo. I memoed out this podcast at least. I might have done another one, but at least I did that. And so, I mean, you don't have to be a super fanboy of either of those things to just be like, oh, that's, I would have twetched this out on BSV, except it's just too damn expensive and I don't never get any engagement. So no. So,
What, BSV expensive? I had no idea. What?
well, no, BSV is not expensive. Twetch is expensive. It's their
Oh.
business model. It costs 2 cents to tweet or
Mm.
Twitch, and then if you add like other things to it or you like, it's like 4 cents, and it's like it starts to add up quickly. So, but I use it once in a while. But anyway, that whole big rant is just say, yeah, I think we can start to dip into other people, and yeah. Let me see. Jeremy had another super chat thingy, and then we'll hit on some of these last stories here. Oops, wrong super chat button. He said, definitely think FTX has actually done wonders in finally getting the mainstream message, getting to the mainstream the message. Crypto is not centralized exchanges. Centralized exchanges are scams. Put your money in them, and you go broke. Learn how crypto works, and you can avoid it and be unaffected. Yeah, I think I'm surprised at how well crypto has done as a whole with this mass extinction event with centralized exchanges that we went under. Right? It was just like the meteor and the dinosaurs. Ah, they're all like, pleasantly surprised at how well crypto is done despite that.
Well, it's kind of interesting. So that Jeremy says that because I actually just had a conversation with somebody last night as I was walking out of work about crypto, right? And so I think a lot of the perception is still when they think of crypto, they think of fraud because of things like FTX. So I think internally, and by internally I mean in the broader crypto sphere, yeah, the main takeaway is not your keys, not your coins. But we've been through this
Mm-hmm.
before, right? I mean, look, Mount Gox creditors are going to be getting their money back soon, apparently. So that's nice. But hey,
Allegedly.
that's the lesson that we should have learned a long time ago. So now FTX blows up. Oh, a bunch of people lose their money. So what's the other thing that this person at work also heard of? Luna crashed. Oh, like so when the general public hears about this stuff. Oh, actually, here's another thing that comes to mind. I wrote a tweet about a lady that I was talking to, and she referred to Satoshi as that Japanese economist, and I thought that was adorable. But
Yes,
because she was
fantastic.
describing Bitcoin very well.
Everyone really knows it's an Australian. Yeah.
Oh God, please no.
Yeah. That's as far as I'll go into that thing. All right, keep going.
But the point being, like, prior to that conversation, what she's heard of it's like, yeah, well, I know about Bitcoin because her son wrote a report on it, but what most people think about is FTX and other scams like that. And so I think we still have a long way to go because, like you said, nobody actually uses this stuff. So how do we're fighting uphill no matter what coin we are, even if you're Bitcoin, BTC, number one market cap. In fact, that might actually be working against you because now you have the whole number go up Ponzi scheme mentality. Some people on my Facebook lately I've been like, hey guys, I'm not actually sure if I'm just getting filtered out by Mark Zuckerberg's Zuckbot on Facebook because I'm mentioning CBDCs and Bitcoin Cash. Like, that's a possibility because Facebook is a censorship hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I got some replies that were like, yeah, I see them sometimes, but honestly, I'm just like too exhausted to learn about this stuff. Another answer that I've gotten is I see it, but I just have a general distrust of Bitcoin and crypto in general.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And then other criticisms that I get, what happens when we go from $69,000 to $17,000? That sucks, right? So, for people who actually care, like BCH, we have the BCH bull, of course. You can hedge against the volatility, and but people on my Facebook don't care about that kind of thing. People who are already in crypto care about that kind of thing, where I can use BCH bull and 5x long and make a bunch of money if the price goes up. Like, that's friggin' awesome. It's on chain and totally decentralized and permissionless and like all of the things that we love, unlike going on Binance and trying to 5x long, where you have to give your money to Binance and they might rug pull you at any moment.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. I think also a lot of people who have like the armchair quarterback kind of mentality, where they just, it's whatever shows up on MSNBC as they're scrolling through. It's like, oh, that's the headline. That's what I know about crypto, and that's it. And it helps a lot to just use it. And sometimes you give people throw people some sats. Sometimes you get them on like a crypto social network. Sometimes, etc. There's just a bunch of like uses that can get people on, which kind of, pulls us into the whole cash tokens thing. So, obviously Jeremy posted this link here about why, what is cash tokens and why is it exciting, talking about this whole upgrade that adds stuff like tokens and NFTs and all this kind of stuff to Bitcoin Cash. And this is something that I admittedly have not looked into very deeply, because as this next tweet from Corbin, as also was linked, kind of says, is because they're asking, is Bitcoin.com going to have their wallet integrate cash tokens? He said, we'll be watching from the sideline for community consensus adoption and decide based on our user demand. Cash tokens seem technically interesting, but so are colored coins, Wormhole, SLP, Smart BCH. Cash tokens is following up after several duds. Fifth time's the charm means it has a lot to prove. So I guess that's kind of a great encapsulation of, I hear cash token. Oh yeah, this is the token that's going to work this time. I have so many SLP tokens on Memo Cash, right? I have so many people randomly sent me these like random tokens I don't know what to do with. And so basically, how well do you understand cash tokens, and can you kind of explain what's different or cool about this one?
So I guess let's start with cash tokens compared to SLP and all of the other attempts before. And I guess SBCH is kind of a special case too, so we can touch on that. So cash tokens, the main deal here is that it's miner validated tokens. This is baked directly into the protocol. This isn't like based on op return or anything like that. We're pretty confident this is the real deal, and that we're actually breaking down ground here. I guess a major difference, like, so SLP, like, you have the ability to accidentally destroy your tokens if your wallet wasn't aware of them.
Yeah, you just send the wrong coins.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a whole lot of ways that you could just totally screw up your SLP stash. Cash tokens, that can't happen. At worst, if your wallet, which it's not supposed to, the spec suggests very strongly that token-aware wallets should not send tokens to a non-token-aware address. It should just outright refuse. But on a technical level, there's nothing that actually stops you from doing that, because a token address and a non-token address use the same public key. So ultimately, if you do accidentally send some tokens to a non-token address, you can recover them with some work. And probably, if it becomes necessary, then tools will be developed to make that easier. But hopefully it just never becomes necessary, because wallet developers follow the guideline. I think there's been another kind of misconception, and I actually had this misconception myself until it was clarified. And I saw Shomari, who was asking about the Bitcoin.com support for cash tokens. Had also mentioned this. So one thing is, sorry, let me recollect my thoughts, because I just totally nuked myself there.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of went over a whole lot of things about like the different address formats and stuff, which I as you were just mentioning right now, I understand why you want a second address to kind of avoid accidentally doing stuff. However, there must be something about Bitcoin, about the name Bitcoin, whether it's BTC or BCH, that just, you have way too many addresses to keep, like address formats. Like I
Mhm.
remember, obviously Bitcoin had like starting with one that address, and then went to two and three, whatever, and then you got the like the SegWit one, and then there's some others, and there's like what is it? They have like a Taproot one now too, or something. There's like a million different address formats for BTC, and then for Bitcoin Cash, obviously there was the old address and then the new address, and then now there's like another one, and at some point, I think that we need some sort of a all the different address formats are just like nerdy, should be just nerdy background stuff. At some point, I think that we need to move to crypto UXs, the actual user experience and interface, where you don't see any of that stuff at all. It's just like send a token, send to this, and that's it. But anyway,
Yeah. So that was kind of what I was starting to try to touch on before I broke my own brain. So with the token aware and non-token aware addresses, yeah, I guess if you're just like a bystander, it can look kind of confusing, right? But the idea is that we don't want any of the token use cases to interfere with any of the cash use cases.
mm-hmm.
So, for example, if I'm making a wallet, I really want that wallet to be focused on sending and receiving money first. But because BCH is now going to be able to have this robust DApp ecosystem thanks to cash tokens, we can have maybe specialized sections on a wallet that are dedicated to like that specific use case for that token. Like say you have digital ID tokens, you could have just a part of your wallet that's dedicated to managing digital ID.
Mm.
Or I guess if you had say like a stock exchange or something like that, you would just have a stock exchange app that knows how to deal with tokens already. You would get token addresses from that app versus your just regular P2P cash wallet isn't even going to give you that token address because you don't need tokens there. So we're trying to get to this idea where we need to stop thinking about the tokens themselves as BCH, even though you kind of infuse them with BCH dust, because they are application specific. Like we can have a generic kind of catch-all token interface, but that's going to be more on a technical level where we can like read existing metadata and kind of just tell the user, hey, you have these tokens, we're aware that they exist, we don't necessarily know what to do with them, but here's the info we have, versus a specialized application that says, hey, we're I guess Kallisti token, and when you use Kallisti app, like we know how to use Kallisti tokens in this special way.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, let me just see. We got a super chat here from. We actually got quite a few super chats. Well, so first, Onetime had an interesting one where he says, "If social media can shadow ban people so much now, won't having digital identities in the future lead to much more harmful economic discrimination, blacklisting, and shadow banning of people for stupid reasons?" Oh, that's an interesting kind of a thought, because when you do have your username, I guess, being like a digital identity, and then also attached to your money, like that might be interesting. I don't
I
know.
don't think
What
it
do you
would be
think?
any worse than it is now, really, because again, you can have an identity attached to any arbitrary address, so you can effectively still Sybil. It's just you can, or is it Sybil? I don't know, but it just means that you can have a signature tied to multiple addresses for that ID. I guess it. I don't know. I don't see it as much different as the current status quo. It's like I can still make a million different accounts and have a bot farm and get shadow banned or whatever. It really depends on how the actual media that we're using handles it. I mean, like look at
Mm-hmm.
Reddit, it's centralized. Look at Nostr. You can't technically be censored on Nostr, but then you can just spin up your own relay, and nobody can shut down your own relay unless they come after your data center or your computer or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing with like the also like when people get banned from social media, it is their account that's directly banned, but usually the intention behind that is to ban the person behind the account.
Mhm.
And so if you spin up a sock puppet or whatever, they tend to like get after that one too, if they know it's true, if they know it's you, right? So, which could be another fun t-shirt for the background there. Sock puppets are human, right? Which I don't know if I believe that. It just would be a funny slogan to have.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. So think about it, right? If we have like the state ID token, and I need that in order to sign up for Reddit, people are just going to make anonymous alternatives because like the internet enabled that to begin with, us to be able to congregate, anonymously share our opinions, and uphold freedom of speech. Like this is a human rights issue at that point, right? Like if I cannot access the internet, period, without like revealing my identity to, I guess, multiple extraneous parties, that's bad. And sure, yeah, we have to KYC to get our internet connections, right? That's not exactly what I'm talking about. I guess if it ever did come to that level, that would be like legal issues. I don't know. I guess there has been net neutrality, the SOPA PIPA, CISPA stuff back in like 2015. So who knows if they try to go in that direction, but then that kind of comes back to exactly what we're saying about crypto regulations. Without that clarity, or if the regulations become too draconian, people will just go to jurisdictions where it's not draconian. And that's an economic statement. Okay, well, you lose your labor, you lose your production.
Yeah, that's true. Let me hit on this drama here because we're past the hour mark, so not too much longer. But this good old Mark David Lamb, CoinFlex update, open letter to Waldemar Peter and Roger K. Vera of THORChain, and basically for those who you kind of have to read this thing yourself. It's a big long letter, but basically Mark Lamb, who has been on this very channel, I interviewed him before. I don't know if he'd maybe I'd have him back on to see if he explained his stuff, but it doesn't look good for him necessarily. He is the CEO of CoinFlex, which was a crypto exchange that acted as, at the time, I believe, the sole bridge to smart BCH, and then ended up going bankrupt, basically losing a bunch of money, and saying that none other than Bitcoin Jesus himself, Roger Ver, owed him like hundreds of millions of dollars, something crazy, or I don't know how much. I forget how much it was.
I think the
But
first number was like 41 million, and then it doubled to like 82 million somehow.
yes, and Roger alleges that he doesn't owe him that because part of their conditions was, even forget what the part of the condition was, that, but basically he just said that, like, according to the way the thing shook out, he doesn't owe him any money. But anyway, the result is that CoinFlex has, basically user funds are not SAFU, and Smart BCH has been dealt quite an interesting and sad blow. But as far as this update, I mean, it's just, he just basically just says, I want money. I mean, it's a lot of like, oh, sad, and
I mean,
people just,
didn't they just get a bunch of money from fundraising the OpenX thing? Like, I don't know, man. Like,
yeah,
I don't really pay attention to Mark Lamb just because, like, I actually, okay, it's funny. It's very funny. I KYC'd myself with CoinFlex like
oh no,
3 days before the freaking exchange imploded because I was about to start buying BCH there instead of on Coinbase. Because I was like, oh, BCH friendly exchange. They deal in like pretty much only BCH and BTC. Like, that sounds like the exchange I want to be on. And then like it imploded like right when I did that. I was like, wow, I'm glad that I didn't actually put any funds there because I would have gotten screwed. And
yeah,
so I don't know, man. Like this whole thing with Mark Lamb and Roger, it stinks because I don't know if I can honestly say that Roger is totally innocent, and I'm just gonna let the courts describe that. It's not even my business. Like, what he does with his money is his business. Whatever deal he made with Mark Lamb, like, they probably should have made a better deal. Like, I don't know
yeah,
what I don't know what any exchange owner is thinking, giving anybody some kind of special privilege or unlimited margin account or anything like that. Whatever happened. And then on top of that, really the thing that irks me and a lot of other people is the custody of the smart BCH funds. Like, those should not have ever been commingled with customer funds. Smart BCH is not a creditor to CoinFlex. They should not be part of the same class for that I guess settlement. So I don't know, like that the smart BCH isn't even a centralized entity. I guess now there is some sort of smart BCH foundation that came up after the fact. It stinks. It stinks. So that's like, if I recall correctly, it's either 101,000 or 110,000 BCH is basically being held hostage by Mark Lamb in the CoinFlex exchange. And at the
yeah.
same
Is it
time,
still there?
I think so. Somebody can verify that. They know the address. Like I said, I haven't been keep track of the address. The address is known, so somebody can check the progress and maybe let us know. Last I checked, it was there, but last I checked was maybe like 6 months ago. So
Yeah. Well, Onetime has a perfect super chat comment on that stuff. He says, abstain from commingled sex. CX. So yes, it's true. Abstain from that stuff. The thing is, it seems like the idea was these were never supposed to be commingled, and they are not necessarily commingled, but just that when you go bust, rather than go through an actual like bankruptcy proceeding or whatever else, you just, you know, just any money you have on hand, you just start taking and doing stuff with, and that's where it gets really sketchy. And so, obviously, I'm more than happy to hear Mark Lamb's side of the thing and just, you know, do due diligence on everything, all that kind of stuff. But it does sound kind of sketchy, especially since your thing goes belly up and you start trying to raise money elsewhere. It's just like to keep the thing going. It's a little, I don't know. It doesn't sound very good. As for like Roger's stuff, unfortunately, it just seems like he's too involved with, I guess, legal issues around this to be able to comment. But I would love to have his side of things too, just from a casual thing. His business is not my business, right? He's a grown man, does whatever he wants, just for a curiosity kind of thing. I think that too few people, or I wouldn't say too few, very few people have been actually talking about this whole thing, as far as, you know, how the great, you know, Bitcoin Jesus has gotten involved with a few, you know, exchanges and platforms losing all their money and saying he owes them a lot. I don't know what's up with that. My guess is that he probably made some bets in some positions, and I think he hedged the risk by putting in certain clauses. And when they went belly up, they're trying to get around those clauses to get him to pay what he would owe if they had, you know, listened to the clause. So for example, with Genesis as well, he had a lot of Genesis says that he owes him money, but he says, because I had this clause and you broke the clause. So it's almost like, I almost feel like, from a outside perspective, and by the way, this is not a well-researched or thought-out opinion, so don't roast me for it. You just take it for what it is. It just, I get the vibe that Roger scammed some scammers, you know? Like he kind of like, he bet, well, either they're not scammers and I'm going to be okay, or if they are scammers, I don't have to pay them. And he kind of
right, like, now we can just drag them through the court system
and
figure it out that way. And if he's right, then he's right. The other thing too, though, is Roger was actually a major investor in CoinFlex, which makes it all that much messier.
Yeah, and you know, Roger, he's not a man of like charity. Doesn't mean he doesn't engage in charity, but I think he's makes sure that he gets whatever it's worth when he does something like throw a bunch of money in something, like put certain conditions. And it wouldn't surprise me if he put some very specific conditions that weren't met. And so, you know, it's like when you throw a lot of seed capital behind something like that, I think you can usually call a lot of extra shots. But I'll kind of wait for the carnage to be over after these court cases and kind of just see what happens to put my, you know, to form my opinion. But yeah, the whole thing seems pretty sketchy and full of drama.
When does BCH not have drama? 2023, hopefully. Like we've been pretty good so far.
Hashtag
no major drama in 2023, and fingers crossed it stays that way. Only from here.
That's the thing that's just a quick note on the drama type thing. I mean, obviously, Bitcoin and the hash wars. I mean, in the block size wars, I should say. We're not at the hash wars yet. That was like the initial source of drama, but once the split happened, and then all the people left over, for all the people who kind of were left dissatisfied by Bitcoin jumped in there. And then, like right away, you have, you know, Craig, C-R-E-G, Craig doing his stuff, and then just hash war and all this, boom, and they kind of went off. And then, of course, I guess the founder of Bitcoin Cash, Amari, also has been on this channel. Hi, Amari. Just wanted to implement some bold and specific changes that were not on the whole popular, and the community consensus was you should do that on your own chain, which you did. So now we have eCash. And so it's like, finally drama free. And it's like, but wait. And then you get the CoinFlex stuff and all that,
Yeah, we somehow suffer a casualty from Ethereum despite having no relation to Ethereum.
Yeah, of course. So hopefully, like, that's like the last of the big drama things to get weeded out. Doesn't mean there won't be any other drama, but one thing I do notice is because of the culture of Bitcoin Cash, there's always a risk vector where people can take advantage of like the good-heartedness of some principles. Like people love, like I feel like any old person in a developing country with hyperinflation who can run around and show a bunch of people with an app on their phone can just get bags of money thrown at them. Like there's always going to be a little bit of that, like, you can kind of, if you're clever enough, you can kind of scam some people. And yeah, there's always going to be some stuff like that. And I'm sure there's also, I don't know if maximalist is the right term, but that little maximalist bent of if you do something that's like only on Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin Cash first or preferential, people are going to get really excited. Again, like a CoinFlex type thing. People are going to get all into that. And then like, oh my gosh, or it's like, we're doing this, but on our chain. Like exclusivity kind of thing makes people be like, and gets them going, and then that's always a vector. But so other than that, I'll just watch those vectors. Other than that, I think that we can exercise the rest of the drama, kind of get it out of there.
Yeah, fingers crossed, right?
Yeah. Well, let me hit on this Maya launch thing. First off, are you very familiar with THORChain?
A little bit. I've messed with it a little bit, and somebody from the THORChain community came and answered a whole lot of questions in one of the BCH Telegrams, so that was pretty cool. It's an interesting platform, and if we do end up in a multi-coin world or a multi-layer one world, which I think to some degree we will at a minimum, like BCH and XMR, maybe some others, then I see a lot of value to THORSwap and THORChain, and I think it's a pretty cool project. Probably in said hypothetical multi-coin world would make it a very legitimate project.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that I think is really, I guess, I'm starting to sort of wrap my head around this like value add type thing. So, THORChain is, a cross-chain AMM and DEX that basically lets people swap native L1 for native L1, and also deposit and earn money on liquidity. And one of the best features is the savers feature, which allows you to just earn liquidity, like earn on a single asset, meaning you can deposit Bitcoin Cash and earn like a few percent a year APY, and then just get that out of it. So it really ties a lot of things in pretty well. There's the first official, I guess, I don't know if official, maybe it's the first fork of THORChain is coming out called the Maya protocol in just a matter of a few days. I think like Tuesday or so. They're starting their big liquidity auction thing, which is a way of distributing the token, which I won't bore people into too many details. But what I like about Maya is, first of all, it's like it reduces the centralization risk of, you have THORChain. What happens if something goes horribly wrong or goes down? It's like kind of screwed. It's like now there's another one. It has a slightly different like node bonding model as far as like, how do you stake to run a node, but mostly it's similar, but they're going to have different chains. And the thing that got me excited about this is they were very interested in adding Dash, and they are going to add Dash very soon. But what I like about, when you mentioned like the cross-chain, cross L1 kind of world, the really awesome thing about this is the DEX aggregator kind of a thing, where now if you have one like interface, let's say Thor Wallet, because that is going to be Maya's launch partner, if you can trade between assets that are not supported on both of those. So for example, let's say Bitcoin Cash is only on THORChain and Dash is only on Maya. With one click, you could still swap from Dash to Bitcoin Cash and back and forth by using both of those networks in conjunction. And where this starts to become interesting is you have a lot of projects, obviously Ethereum and Polygon and all these kinds of things like that, but that have very, I guess, rich tokenized and DeFi type ecosystems. But they're siloed. They're kind of their own little thing. If you're not into that, you're not into that. And I think that was, I mean, the CoinFlex thing really sucked. But other than that, that's one of those things that really was unfortunate about the smart BCH thing is you have all these people doing all this interesting stuff in a very siloed little environment that like the rest of the crypto universe doesn't need to care about. And it's just too many hoops to get through. It's like, well, if I got some random ERC20 token, I got to swap that for Ethereum. Then I got to swap Ethereum for Bitcoin Cash. And then now I got to like go get a CoinFlex account. And now I got to go do that stuff and bridge over and then take my smart BCH and use that to like switch it, like nightmare. And no one's going to do that. But being able to have something like that, let's just say for the hypothetical, let's just say you could add like native cash token or whatever else support on something like Thor wallet. And then you can swap one of your cash tokens for any ERC20 token in one click. Just go whoop, all the way through. That's the stuff that really boom blows my mind.
Like if you had like USDT or USDC, I mean USDT is already issued on SLP at one point. And as far as cash tokens is concerned, probably one of the first things that's going to happen is a lot of the SLP tokens are going to migrate to cash tokens. We're going to build tooling to make that easy probably. And so that means we'll have like USDT or you know, even freaking Flex USD on cash tokens, right? And so yeah, that'd be really awesome to be able to just trade those directly across L1s. But then there's always like that thing in the back of my head where it's like, well, is there going to be like one dominant L1 with like a couple of like tinier ones because just like protocol wars, right? Or like it's kind of hard to imagine if that cross-chain future exists, or like to what degree it exists, I guess, to the point where does it make sense to have the, let's say USDT is like the world's most major stablecoin, right? Let's just say that. So if we have USDT on cash tokens and then you're mostly using say BCH for your everyday expenditures, I mean, I have to back that up even farther because now do we even need stablecoin if you're using an L1 predominantly, because using a stablecoin to begin with is already like fiat mindset, right?
Yeah.
So it's I don't know, it really depends on how this space actually evolves. Like I'm not going to sit here and like discredit the idea of stablecoin, discredit the idea of like cross-chain swaps, because like there's clear use cases for these things, especially in the present day. But as we move toward, if our goal in BCH land, and as far as I know, like most other cryptos aren't focused on this, is like we actually want global adoption on L1. We want everybody using Bitcoin Cash. And so that means I'm not using the dollar. I'm not using the euro, you know. But then there's the legal aspect, right? We always have to go back to that. You know, we're not going to abolish the government. There needs to be that regulatory clarity. It's I guess I now that I'm actually like kind of piecing this together, and THORChain is kind of like this cannonball, right? In what is an otherwise peaceful lake for me of, oh, I'm just gonna use Bitcoin Cash and ignore the rest of the world. Like realistically, I can't do that. But for now it works because we're still so small. But we do have to think about how do we introduce this from a regulatory perspective, and then that is going to shape how the protocol wars go. I mean, it's just kind of inevitable. So if it's not due to free market forces, which I guess it always will be, it's just regulation shapes those forces, I guess.
Yeah, it's
a lot of thoughts there.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think it's going to be like anything major that gets injected into a free market environment. It's going to create a lot of winners and losers, right? It's going to shake a lot of things up. So, for example, a lot of people won't even try something like a Bitcoin Cash for basic payment purposes because they already have all their money somewhere else. They're already using other networks, and they're like, you mean I got to start? Nah, it's just not worth it. In those cases, it'll take a project like that and make it so much easier where now you just press a button in your wallet and shuffle over some, oh look, I got some of this now, this is my payment money. And then Bitcoin Cash literally is your Bitcoin Cash balance, right? To where you have your BTC in your wallet, for example, and it's annoying to use, and you just swap it over, because you could bridge it to Lightning, but this is better than Lightning. So you just swap it over, and that's your little cash spendy thing. And stuff like that could really give such projects a big leg up. Now all of a sudden you don't have that, like, oh, that one coin to rule them all. The insurmountable network effect problem isn't as much of a problem if you can just go between L1s so seamlessly. On the other hand, there are a lot of use cases where, like, let's just say there's this big rich token infrastructure on BCH through cash tokens or whatever, and so you're like, oh well, because Bitcoin Cash is so useful for payment stuff, we're going to keep our Tether, for example, or whatever stable coins on there. We're going to keep it on this network, so it's easy to just do that in this like closed loop ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Maybe in the future, though, if you can bridge those things, people just won't even build those on BC. They'll be like a USDT on Polygon, that they'll switch natively back and forth between those two things. And so that side of things, one side of BCH could do really well, but the other side could atrophy. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this like seamless cross-chain aggregator kind of a world really evolves, and like what people actually find to be useful, And I honestly think if you could bridge to anything else like that and back and forth, I think it will harm things like the Lightning Network. Because if you could swap to Litecoin, let's just say, Bitcoin to Litecoin and pay, and the merchant just swaps to Bitcoin at the end of the day or whatever easily, then you don't need to bridge to Lightning and close channels and settle. You don't need to do all that if you can already cross-chain to something that's faster and more lightweight. So, yeah, exciting times.
It's like already enough of a pain to try to switch between Bitcoin and Lightning. It's actually kind of dumb, and I think just yet another thing that BTC people like to ignore about how BTC and Lightning work. But whatever, we don't got to get into that right now. What I do think, though, is I kind of just expanding the thought from earlier. You kind of gave me some ideas. In a cross-chain world, if L1 survive is going to be directly related to their utility, right? So, and that's actually one of the main reasons that Smart BCH was exciting, because that gave us compatibility with Ethereum. Yes, Smart BCH is effectively its own chain. It just happens to use BCH as its gas. But it's still Smart BCH. Like, the only reason that we can value it 1-to-1 was because of the bridge that is no longer intact. And until we have a decentralized solution and can restore that peg, like, it's never going to be 1-to-1. But the main point being, the EVM compatibility, it was the exciting part, right? Because if you look at EVM world, that's why you have ETH and Polygon and I guess like BNB,
Optimism.
Yeah, and all of those, like,
this
EK rollup thing, because with global state, scaling is really difficult, and that's just another advantage that UTXO chains have. So I guess if you look like a chain like Cardano is interesting for the same reason. It could be theoretically just as scalable. I think their approach, unfortunately, is a good example of what happens when you go only into theory and not into application. But from a technical and intellectual point of view, like, it's interesting to think about. So what are all of these different L1s actually doing? What problems do they solve? What use cases do they solve? I think we can safely say that Ethereum does something different than Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash do. Even with cash tokens, we won't have full Turing completeness. Whether or not that turns out to be extremely valuable, such that we won't be able to do most of the things that ETH can do, or perhaps ETH comes out with something that's just like so kick-ass that we have to just consider the fact that decentralized general computing is a good idea. And I have some theories on that maybe we can talk about later, but I don't want to get too unfocused. Just the main takeaway, like, what do these L1s do? That's really what's going to shape the cross-chain swap, I guess, viability.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, and I think we see a lot of examples of similar type things in in like the free market in the non-crypto world, right? So for example, the with social media networks, you have like Facebook buying out Instagram, and then slowly sort of merging the two a little bit, having like the cross chain bridge between the messaging. Now your Instagram DMs are your Facebook DMs, kind of like all that weird stuff, which I did consent to. I don't like, but whatever. Um, do you have like all that in like a million different social networks, and most of them like didn't pan out, but like some of them did, and there's still a lot of competition. And then like you take the fast food world where, you know, everyone has to have like everyone has their own menu, like everyone's competing for like the whole menu item, and then eventually you have places like In and Out that are just like, you know what, the competition is good enough, we're just going to do one thing, and you can go across the street if you want a Taco Bell, right? You can go somewhere else if you want that. And then you have like the Taco Bell KFC combos and like all those things. And like, I mean, we'll have that with crypto too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it'll be interesting to see how people value that. I mean, even now, it's just hard enough to get people to see the fundamental value. So now once people have understood the fundamental value and we're adding a bunch of stuff on top of that, I think it'll be pretty interesting to see how people think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everyone who comes on the show, I do present them with you can't buy it, only from coming on the show, a proof of work, as I like to say, NFT, which gets you into the live super chat and stuff that Bitcoin Cash Podcast and others were using today. So yeah, I'm officially presenting you the guest NFT. Yay, congratulations. I will send it to you on, like right now I got Polygon and Wax. And so if you use either of those ones, I'll be happy to send it over soon. If there's any other network that has a good, reliable Discord token gating bot, I'll always dip my toes into a new network and do something like that. And or you take it as one. If you can burn it, I'll happily remint it on another one at a different time. So there you go. Thanks for
yes. I would probably use Polygon because that's the one I'm more familiar with, and I imagine I could just get MetaMask and go ahead and get that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, well, just send me a Polygon address. I'll shoot that over, and the next podcast you could be all up in them live chats.
Cool.
All right, so now it's
maybe we can get that on CashTokens. That'll be the next goal.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Shill-o'clock. What are you going to shill? Floor is open.
Oh, I get the shill? Oh, God, that's what I do best.
It's shill-o'clock.
Hey, everybody, buy Bitcoin Cash. Better yet, don't buy Bitcoin Cash. Earn Bitcoin Cash. Earn it by selling actual goods. Earn it by doing actual jobs and getting people to pay you in Bitcoin Cash. Forget buying it. Forget exchanges. That's actually what I want to say to you. But actually buy Bitcoin Cash. Tell everybody to buy Bitcoin Cash. Tell all your friends. Tell all your family. I do. I literally do. My friends are probably sick of me by now, but I'm never going to shut up about it. Bitcoin Cash is number one. All of the other cryptos are not necessarily scams, but you should really be paying attention to BCH because it's the real deal.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's way better than what a Bitcoin maximalist would say, because they wouldn't say earn, probably, and they also would say they are all scams. So
well, most of them are. 99% of crypto is a clown show, and that is why I focus on Bitcoin Cash. Most people recognize the fraud, and as long as I also recognize that fraud with those people, then I can say, hey, Bitcoin Cash is the real deal. Take a look. It's awesome. Here, have a little.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for being on. And yeah, I will. Well, real quick, Krazzer's Bikers in the says how to get the NFT. Well, there's two ways. There's the proof of work one, which is you have to get on the show. I have to invite you to be on the show as a guest, and then I'll give you one. That one is only the proof of work. The proof of stake one is you buy it. If you go, I'll drop the link in. If you go to my site, dissenter.net/NFT, I sell the ones that are actually, get you a lot of the same type of things. So, yeah. Thanks everyone for watching. Next week, I think it's probably gonna be Paul Pui of Edge. I think was gonna be on, so that'll be awesome. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Have a fantastic weekend. I'm away at Liberty Forum giving a talk this weekend, and I have to run to beat the snowstorm because there's a big old snowstorm coming. So I have to get ahead of that because it's like an hour's drive away. But anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Thank you very much, Kallisti, for being on. Thank you, Kallisti's community, for being very supportive and happy and all this other good stuff. And Have a great weekend. I'll see you guys around.